Welcome back and thanks for joining. Got my dear friend, Brother John Givhan. John Givhan wears a lot of hats. He's been all over the world and traveled and served our country and flew a big old helicopter and is a veteran of a foreign war. And we had a veteran on here just some time ago, Doyle Taylor, and talking about a problem he'd had with VA in Montgomery. And so we contacted John, and we just want to get a follow-up on what do you think's going on in the VA, and what do you think? How can we help?
Well, I did a little checking, and I've got a little synopsis here I'll run by you, Bob, that I think it tells the story very effectively. Chris Edwards with the Cato Institute said, and this is dated May 28, 2014, Chris said, after my blog post yesterday about Department of Veterans Affairs spending, my research assistant created a chart below on the number of VA employees. Wow, you don't often see bureaucracies expand that rapidly. A 56% increase in just 13 years, from 219,000 to 341,000 employees. The VA has 100,000 new employees since 2006. This data is from the Office of Personnel Management. About 90% of VA employees, which is about 306,900, are in the Veterans Health Administration, which is currently in the news for its horrendous management. Okay, let's talk about a little get-together on August the 10th, 2015. This is by Jonah Bennett, who's a reporter for the Daily Caller News Foundation. Department of Veterans Affairs Secretary Robert McDonnell asked an audience full of veterans how many still had claims outstanding at a Disabled American Veterans Convention on Monday in Denver. Now, let me digress a moment. You remember when our local veteran Doyle Taylor was on here?
Right.
He pointed out that he had a claim that had been waiting 15 years.
15 years.
Okay.
He did.
Okay, go back to our article here. The chief cook and bottle washer for the VA, Robert McDonnell, asked an audience, DAV, Disabled American Veterans, how many still had claims outstanding. All over the stadium, hands shot up, but one veteran shouted his answer out loud, 15 years. And it wasn't Doyle Taylor.
No,
it was another one.
It was another one.
McDonnell responded, 15 years is too long. Well, give me a break, Mr. McDonnell. Earlier in the event, McDonnell pointed to a skyrocketing demand as part of the reason for backlogs. McDonnell said, the number of veterans seeking care and benefits is increasing, and that's what caused last year's crisis. McDonnell stated, veterans' demand for services exceeded VA's capacity to provide it. That's the fundamental problem. Well.
That wasn't 15 years ago. He said that was last year's problem.
Yeah.
Actually, that was about 10 days ago.
I know
Right.
that, but I'm talking about these people like Doyle that are waiting 15 years for an answer.
And the VA's only got 341,000 employees,
Right.
which is the second largest bureaucracy only to the Department of Defense. Okay, going on with the article. The conference was framed as a dialogue between House Veterans Affairs Committee Chairman Jeff Miller and the Secretary. While relations have at times been tense between the two over the past several months, the discussion on Monday was unusually cordial. Jeff and I both care deeply about veterans, as you can tell from this discussion. Most of everything we said we agreed on, McDonald said. Although the two focus mostly on areas of agreement, one issue still remains to be resolved, namely the new bipartisan VA Accountability Act, which builds on the legislation enacted last summer. According to McDonald, the legislation makes it more difficult to attract top-tier talent, as it makes the VA less attractive relative to other government agencies or even the private sector. The American Federation of Government Employees has also come out against the legislation, saying that it kills fundamental due process rights. Did you know that the employees for the VA are unionized?
Well, they have due process, but where's the due process for Doyle Taylor and these guys that are waiting 15 years?
But for Miller, the bill doesn't force McDonald's hand to fire anyone. It only gives him the authority to remove problematic employees as he sees fit.
I believe they've only fired one person.
That's what Dole said, and that's correct.
Yeah.
Moreover, Miller argued that if the bill proves successful, other government agencies may adopt the same model. I don't know anybody that wants to work at an agency where ineffective people are protected and rewarded, Miller said. Now here's one of the kickers. McDonald quickly rejected the idea of privatizing the VA as a solution to long wait times and slow responses to benefits claims, citing the department's past history of making breaking medical research.
First we heard of that.
What about the veterans?
Yeah.
They got time to do medical research, according to McDonald, but they
may actually have been experimenting with people. There's an argument for that, actually, especially some of the Iraq veterans.
Now listen to what McDonald goes on to say. In a system where you don't have a VA, where you might not have the research, what for-profit system is going to do that research? We can probably name off 100 of them.
Well, if there's any money involved, everybody's going to do it. That's what capitalism's all about.
Yeah, and who comes up with all these new pills and medication? Except
the people that are doing the research.
Doing it for profit.
Right.
He goes on to say you can debate what size that is, talking about the VA. But who's going to do it if the VA doesn't do it?
I imagine Blue Cross Blue Shield will like step in that pie.
Then listen to this. This is the final kicker. It's a great system, McDonald continued. We need to strengthen it and supplement it with private care. But there's no question that we are not in favor of privatizing the VA. And listen to this. This just about makes me gag. We're not in favor of doing anything that would waste away the VA system to where it couldn't adequately care for veterans. Duh.
That's the whole argument right there, so they're not adequately caring for the veterans right now.
Right. How can you waste away something that's already wasted away?
It's wasted, yeah.
Now, this brings me back, Bob, to the bottom line on this, and I'm going to say this quickly.
Okay.
This is an article by Jesse Burns, dated June 12, 2015. It was actually an interview with George W. Bush. The United States will need combat troops on the ground to defeat the Islamic State in Iraq and Syria, former President George W. Bush suggested.
The JV team.
And he goes on to say, my position was that you need to have boots on the ground. He said, okay, boots on the ground. I strongly advocate that not a single American military member, service member, be ever committed to serve anywhere until these boots are cared for once they're wounded. As we see from even the VA secretary's admission, there's no care for them. Ask me, I know, I've been dealing with them since 1965. But you notice the void, boots on the ground, charge San Juan Hill, but then when these men and women come back with parts missing, and moreover, their brain all screwed up, nothing to care for. And as John said earlier and off the camera, and this is something I agree with, they should come back if they're dead and have a real ceremony. But what if they aren't dead?
Yeah.
Then what happens?
Do you do this? What is the suicide rate?
Very high.
It's unbelievable, isn't it?
Around 30 a day.
Yeah, it's just in the...
And a lot of that's caused by the VA pumping pills of all kinds into these young people and getting them all hooked on dope, and they just take it and take it and take it till they die early, and that's the VA's goal. That's the VA's goal. Let's just kill them off while they're young so they won't live and be a problem.
You know, I don't have to talk about numbers, but I actually have known Doyle Taylor my whole life. I've known you ever since you've been here. These are people that I respect. These people. I know they're not just saying something irrationally. The truth is, they want Doyle to die, so they ain't got to pay him. In my opinion.
I know of a particular veteran right here in this town, and you'd know her, the mother, if I called her name. Her son was a Marine, and the way I put it, and she'll tell you, he was killed in Iraq in 2005, but he didn't die until about 2011.
That's right.
Because of pills on top of pills the VA piled on him.
I wonder if they put that under their research and development part.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
you know.
I hope I didn't screw this up. I remember, and Bob and I have talked about this, John, how many pieces of the boys that we knew that went off to Vietnam came back.
Right.
Broken men, psychological.
Well, they were the people that were going to be the leaders of our town and our country, and they came back and they were just partial pieces of people. You know?
Were they irreparable? I don't know, and we'll never get a chance because a lot of the boys committed suicide. But they were friends of Bob and mine. I remember it well. You know, we've talked about it countless times, and I've always felt like that they were just kind of left behind. They were the people that.
But to sum it up, you have the VA secretary sitting there with the chairman of the House Veterans Affairs Committee admitting that the system is broken. And I told Congressman Roby this when she was first elected. The only way to get rid of the VA is just take a bulldozer and scrape it off the face of the earth and start over.
And sell those buildings to somebody to buy the buildings. If they were going to build a new hospital, they ought to build it in Covenant County. I mean, I'm serious.
Yeah. We
got enough veterans between here and Fort Walton to fill one up. But we got to wrap this up. We're going to have John back on again one day. Thank y'all for watching, and thank you for being here, John.
Thank you.
And if there are veterans out there that need help, you can contact John Givhan, and you can contact the station, and we'll try to help you any way we can. You know, we really will. Thank you, John.
Thank you, brother.